Welcome, everyone, to the Thursday edition of Fair Territory. I'm Ken Rosenthal here with Alanna Rizzo. And Alanna, we are 1 week away from the trade deadline, and we're going to get into all that. But first, we have to talk about a bungling, blundering team wearing pinstripes. Let's get to them.
Yeah, Ken, hi. Good to be with you as always on this Thursday. I tell you what, it seems like the New York Yankees, at least temporarily, are taking a page out of the Bad News Bears book. Ken, what more can you tell us about just the fundamental defense that doesn't seem to be there?
Well, last night was basically an embarrassment, an 8-4 loss to the Toronto Blue Jays, the team they are chasing in the AL East. The Yankees made 4 errors in 3 innings at one point. There were other plays that were not errors that were not made, and that makes 12 errors in 10 games against the Jays this season. Now, afterward, Aaron Boone said that really they've been a good defensive team, but they had 2 bad series in Toronto. Okay, perhaps, but this speaks to a much larger issue. And I wrote about it today in my column. Just the idea that in the eyes of many Yankee fans, Boone is way too forgiving of his players publicly, way too soft on them. And what I wrote essentially was his public comments essentially are irrelevant. They don't matter in the long run. What matters is performance, how the team performs on the field, and if Boone is holding them accountable behind the scenes. That's all that really matters, if they play better. And when they play like this, and they have at various points this season, and this goes back years now under Boone, it makes you wonder what the heck is going on if indeed behind the scenes he is being more firm, holding players more accountable. If he is, it isn't showing on the field. And that to me is the issue. Not so much him being too soft here and too milquetoast, even though I know a lot of fans feel at times he's gaslighting them by essentially saying, now what you're seeing is okay. It's not okay. He knows that, but he needs to relay that, I would think, to the players privately. And whether that is going on, to what extent that is going on, we don't know.
Ken, if you ask the players, though, they love playing for him. Cameron Maben, of course, who does stuff here with us on Foul Territory, was saying he played for Aaron Boone and he absolutely loves playing for him. Do you think that is because he has given them too much rope, or he truly does have their back publicly, but does hold them accountable behind closed doors? Not certain that you know that answer, but why do you think it is that the players love him, even though there's this perception that he's not perhaps holding them accountable?
They love him because he does have their back. That's absolutely right, Alanna, in my estimation. And they love him also because he's an excellent communicator. He is a guy who is not so far removed from being a player himself, understands the give and take of the game, understands how difficult it is, understands also the added pressure of playing in New York and what that means. Some people might have seen the exchange he had with John Boy on his weekly show with them this week, and those guys were asking about players not giving fiery public comments, not expressing greater or more acute disappointment. And his point was, hey, I don't want them like that. I want them on an even keel. Now, in baseball, because we play 162 games, that is the preferred way to go. And that is all okay. But at some point, this is the point of what I wrote again, there has to be accountability. And there has to be some level of crispness to a team's play. It's not just the Yankees that play like this in this day and age, in fairness to them, but we saw in Game 5 of last year's World Series, we've seen at various points over the last several years, this kind of sloppiness. And it drives fans nuts, and it should drive the Yankees brass nuts.
Ken, does it beg the question that perhaps one of the reasons that Aaron Boone was hired was because Joe Girardi was too rigid, maybe wanting his players to be too rigid, and that just doesn't necessarily go over with the player of today? Is that part of the reason why he was attractive as far as a new manager, a new voice?
Alanna, we see it all the time. It's a great point you're making. They go from one extreme to the other. Joe Girardi was too rigid. He was not as good a communicator as perhaps he could have been. And that was at least the perception in that clubhouse, the perception the front office had of Girardi. It was time. So they went to a guy who had never managed before, Aaron Boone, at any level, but of course has had great success. Look at the wins and losses, third most wins in the majors since he took over. Took him to the World Series last year for the first time since 2009. So definitely at some level, Aaron Boone's tenure is a huge success. But at the same time, as I point out in the column, it seems like at times they've almost gone too far the other way in this happy camp that they have, or the happy environment that they have. It might be too soft an environment. I'm looking for the right words and maybe not finding them. But this is the give and take that managers face. And you're right, Alanna. In today's game, you can't be Earl Weaver or Billy Martin or even what Jim Leyland used to be. You cannot get in players' faces. They will not respond and you will lose them. But the measure of a manager, in my opinion, is if he keeps his team playing hard, which I would say Boone does, and if he keeps his team playing at a high fundamental level. That is where the Yankees have fallen short.
Yeah, perhaps a happy medium is in there somewhere. Certainly not saying Aaron Boone should be fired. He gets to the postseason perennially, but there's got to be some sort of give and take there in terms of that. All right, moving on, Ken, let's talk a bit about the trade deadline. As you mentioned, it's about a week away. Eugenio Suárez seems to be on the top of a lot of clubs' minds. What more can you tell us about that?
Best hitter available in a thin market, admittedly. He's having an amazing season, all the home runs. And the Diamondbacks just got swept by the Astros at home, an Astros team that has 17 players on the injured list and somehow is tied with the Toronto Blue Jays for the best record in the American League. Good for them. But from the Diamondbacks' perspective, and I wrote about this earlier this week and a little bit today as well, they don't want to sell. That is against what their general manager, Mike Hazen, stands for. It's against what their owner, Ken Kendrick, wants to do. And at the same time, they have to look at reality. They are fading in the wild card race. They've got a ton of injuries. And this is what I mentioned earlier this week, they have a number of potential free agents that they're not going to all bring back. So at some point, you have to get something for some of these guys. Now, with regard to Suárez, see Trent Rosecrans of The Athletic today reporting that the Reds are among the teams interested. And we've heard about the Cubs and the Yankees, of course, the Mariners. All of these teams are interested. I wrote today that the Brewers should be interested, but I put a caveat in there. In spring training, I kind of said, man, the owner doesn't spend it. If they don't play well this season, it's on him. Guess what? They didn't spend. They're playing great. And he's laughing all the way to the bank, and he's laughing at me, I'm sure, too. So the Brewers do it their way. They're unique for sure, but they also need power. And if you look at their slugging numbers, their hard hit percentages, all of that, Alanna, it's not great. Suárez would help.
Yeah, it seems like the Brewers are almost kind of like the Tampa Bay Rays in the National League. Those two clubs seem to do things their own way, and it seems to continue to work itself out. All right, trade deadlines on everybody's mind, Ken. What do you see happening with right-hander Dustin May of the Los Angeles Dodgers? I mean, do you see him going to a bullpen role when Blake Snell comes back, or do you see his days with the Dodgers being done?
I can see either scenario, Alanna. And what we reported today is that the Dodgers are at least willing to listen on Dustin May, as you would expect. He's a potential free agent. He might be back, he might not, but he's the kind of pitcher that certainly would be in some demand, even though he's been a little bit uneven this year. The other option, though, of course, is to put Dustin May in the bullpen. And I want to put this question to you. What do you think Dustin May could do for the Dodgers as either a long man or a piggyback guy with Shohei Otani? How valuable could he be in that role?
Ken, I think that's been the role for him, right? The last couple of outings. I mean, Shohei Otani has gone out there and pitched, an inning or two or whatever. And then Dustin May comes out to be the relief guy in terms of the bulk amount of work before they actually go to their bullpen. But I have been saying this since the season started, Ken. I really feel like Dustin May's stuff plays better in the bullpen. I think he has really good stuff for about three plus innings, and not necessarily for a starter that you want to be able to go deep into the ballgame. With Blake Snell coming back, I would love to see Dustin. I don't want Dustin May to be traded, although what are you going to get in return? And Andrew Friedman hates overpaying for relievers, but with this relief market and the fact that the Dodgers desperately need bullpen help because of the injuries and lack of production, now Tanner Scott is on the IL, Kirby Yates doesn't look good, Evan Phillips is out for the season, Blake Trinan is coming back soon. I would love to see Dustin May as a long man in the Dodgers bullpen. Again, it just kind of seems we'll just have to wait and see. I asked for Andrew Friedman and Dave Roberts to come on Dodgers territory today. They haven't written me back yet, Ken. I'm not sure why.
Alanna, one more point on this. And Obviously, the Dodgers have trouble keeping pitchers healthy, so why would you trade a healthy pitcher, a guy who is second on your team in innings pitched? At the same time, they've gotten burned trading prospects for relievers over the years. O'Neal Cruz for Tony Watson, Yordan Alvarez for Josh Fields, Zach McKinstry for Chris Martin. The Dodgers do not want to do this again. They've got a ton of prospects. They can make trades with those prospects, but maybe they see May as one other way to go.
Yeah, the Yordan Alvarez Josh Fields trade still keeps me up at night, Ken Rosenthal. All right, much more to come on Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal. Make sure you get your questions in the YouTube chat BCC as well. Grillin Ken is next right after this break.
You know about the best place to buy, sell, trade, or look for that special card in your world. It's called Arena Club, and Eric Kratz just went through a little slab pack experience, and you went big. You went for the Ruby pack.
I love it. I love clicking on the Ruby pack and knowing that I'm going to open something that is going to be epic. I got a Cal Ripken Jr. autographed 1 of 42. I'm keeping it right now, but I would love to have it in my hand, so I might even have them send it to me. Already graded. Everything taken care of for me.
That's right. You want to hang it up and stare at it all day, go for it. But if you're in there to get something else or to sell it away, you can do that. They've got the buyback program, or you can put it on the marketplace yourself. Tons of options. This is where the best cards live. It's arenaclub.com/foul and use the code FOUL for 20% off your first slab pack, or if you'd like to purchase a card, 20% off your first card purchase. Again, arenaclub.com/FOUL. Use code FOUL.
All right, this is my favorite segment on the show, Grillin Ken. Get your questions in. We're going to start with one question from our friends at Chat BCC, not necessarily baseball related, but funny nonetheless. Elvis Santoyo wants to know, Ken, I thought I saw you and AJ walk into so Ken Rosenthal and AJ Pierzynski walk into a bar with a goat and in Chicago while 50 Cent's Party in the Club was playing. What an entrance. Adam would have to play Journey to get AJ moving. What song I can't even read. What song would he have to play to get you dancing and moving, Ken Rosenthal? What's your jam when Adam Amin is on the the DJ booth there?
Well, Elvis, Adam Amin's style of music, what he plays, is not necessarily my number one taste. I like all kinds of music. I do like alternative. I do like Springsteen. I like all those kinds of things, rock. But when Adam Amin's rolling like he was rolling Saturday night in Chicago, I'm not one to suggest he should do anything other than what he's doing.
Look at that photo. That is a framer. Is it a rite of passage, or is that something like when you get your BBWAA card, Baseball Writers of America Association card, or whatever it's called, do you have to prove that you're a Springsteen fan in order to get that thing? Because I feel like every writer...
Alanna, it is a running joke among writers of a certain age, let's say. I'm in that category. And yes, most in that age category do like Springsteen, and the younger ones give us a hard time all the time about that. And I just advise them to go to a show sometimes and then report back to me.
Yes, Ken Rosenthal, Ken Gurnick, Bill Plunkett, Joel Sherman. I swear all of you guys have traveled all over the world to see the boss. Okay, here's a question from our YouTube channel, Alejandro Chavari. What should the Astros do for the trade deadline with so many injuries? You had mentioned, Ken, they have 17 guys on the IL right now. Lots of pitchers coming back from injuries and a backup team that doesn't seem to stop winning. Could a trade set them back? Do they have all that they need, basically?
Alejandro, what they're doing is incredible. I don't know that we can talk enough about it. Joe Espada is going to be a leading candidate for American League Manager of the Year. Trade-wise, the loss of Isaac Paredes, to what looks like a significant hamstring injury, that could force them to make an infielder a priority. That's one. Now, they do have Spencer Arrighetti and Luis Garcia expected back in August, but they have talked about a top-of-the-rotation starter as well, not that one is really available. Or they've talked about another higher leverage reliever, though they have one of the best back-end bullpens in the game. I expect them to be active. That's Dana Brown's nature as general manager. It's Jim Creighton's nature as owner. Now, they've had, of course, financial concerns at various points over the years, but when competitive at the deadline, they generally have done things, and I expect them to do something as well. Maybe multiple things.
Yeah, I tell you what, we're always like, oh, maybe this is the year that the Astros just have to kind of push pause and rebuild. And here they are again, probably running away for the the AL West back into that postseason. Okay, Cubs question for you here on Grillin Ken as we continue with this. Mike G wants to know, are Cubs viewed among league execs as having a prospect package that could land an ace caliber starting pitcher like a Joe Ryan, a Mackenzie Gore? Would Casey Wiggins plus be hard to turn down?
I don't know that they are short in prospects. What I would answer that question with is a question of my own, which is, are the Twins willing to trade Joe Ryan?
Mm-hmm.
And are the Nationals willing to trade Mackenzie Gore? Joe Ryan has 2 years of control after this year. As I wrote the other day, the Twins are for sale. A new owner could come in and presumably would ease the payroll restrictions that the Pohlad family has put on and enable them to build a good team again. They have a good team, good talent. They're not a good team. So when we're talking about Joe Ryan and John Duran and Griffin Jacks, if I'm the Twins, all those guys have 2 more years of control. Why am I trading them? Unless I'm getting completely knocked over. And I don't know that even a massive prospect package would be enough because I want to win sooner. So that's one. Mackenzie Gore is a separate issue. The Nationals, somewhat like the Twins, are in an uncertain state. They are a team with an interim general manager, Mike DeBartolo, and a team where ownership needs to choose or decide where exactly they are going with this. The rebuild has kind of stalled. I wouldn't say failed exactly, but it hasn't been as quick and productive as they would have wanted. That's one reason they dismissed the president of baseball operations, presumably Mike Rizzo. So here's Gore. Yes, he's at the same level of service Juan Sodto was in 2022, 2+ years remaining. But do the Nationals want to do this right now when you have an interim GM, when you have traded guys away really your entire existence, big stars, or do you want to keep Mackenzie Gore for now and stay the course and revisit this once you're more settled?
Yeah, Max Scherzer, Trey Turner, Juan Soto, Mackenzie Gore would be in line with those types of superstars that you're talking about, Ken. All right, another question here for you on our YouTube chat. This one from 2 Goofballs. Is Maikel Garcia a real interest for the Yankees? Are the Royals interested in shipping him?
The Royals are one of those teams right now that we're kind of waiting to see what they do. They just won 2 of 3 from the Cubs. They want desperately to be in contention. They don't want to sell. They're sort of like the Diamondbacks in that respect. But I don't see them, even if they sell, trading Maikel Garcia. All-star this year, a guy who's a really good player, very useful around the diamond. He plays third, can play other positions as well. I don't see him being an option. The Yankees' third base options, at least on the surface, are obviously Eugenio Suárez, Ryan McMahon, Ke'Bryan Hayes, those 3. And I'm sure beyond that, Willie Castro of the Twins, that's a possibility, and he'd be a useful player for them. He might be my favorite of all those guys for the Yankees. So I don't see Maikel Garcia being a guy, but they're going to do something at third base, no doubt.
Ken, do you think the likelihood of any teams at this trade deadline doing more than a 2-team trade is possible? 3-team trades always freak me out a little bit. I mean, do you see that happening with just the way that the market is right now and so many teams in contention?
Good question, Alanna. And 2-team trades are difficult enough to pull off, but 3-team trades are even more difficult. Now, that said, could be any number of things. So we've seen AJ Preller, we've seen other guys, or other GMs, I should say, involve third teams over the years. And certainly I expect that that can be the case this year as well. It's not easy to do. I remember way back when I was first starting as a national writer, a 5-team trade at the deadline.
Oh my
The
goodness.
Nomar trade was a 5-team trade. But whether that happens again beyond 2 teams, we'll see.
I can't even imagine that. Well, a lot of moving parts with that. Happy birthday to Nomar, by the way. That was yesterday. So happy birthday to Nomar Garcia Parra. All right, much more to come on Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal. We are going to be talking about our dudes and dorks of the week when we come back after this quick break.
Kratz, what do? I'm in a bind and I need to make some food at home. I would like it to be home cooked, but I don't want to deal with any of the grocery crap.
HelloFresh, get it done. And they'll start to know when you're in a bind, and they'll figure it out for you, sending something new whenever you order it. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah, it is. And there are dozens of menu items to choose from each week. They can also help you out if you need a little assistance. They can kind of cater to what your needs are or what your preferences are. They'll do a little Q&A session for you, and then you can be the star at home. Kratz is a superstar dad at home for his HelloFresh expertise. And if you want to get involved, then you can make sure that your summer is more enjoyable and delicious at HelloFresh.com/FT10FM. Get 10 free meals with a free item for life when you do that. HelloFresh.com/FT10FM. One per box with an active subscription. Free meals are applied as a discount on the first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan.
BetMGM is giving you the chance to win a prize every day during the baseball season. Step into the batter's box for BetMGM's Swing for the Fences free-to-play game. Visit the BetMGM app to access the game, and you'll score a prize if you hit a single, double, triple, or home run. Strikeout? No problem. Try again tomorrow. Gambling problem or concern? There is help. Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Dude.
All right, Ken, let's give some folks their flowers. Who is your dude of the week for this week?
All right, Alanna, we were just talking about men of a certain age. Well, I'm going to give my dude of the week to a man of a certain age, 45 years old, Rich Hill, pitching for the
Nice.
Kansas City Royals Tuesday night against the Cubs. 5 innings, 3 runs, but only 1 was earned. It was amazing to me to see Rich Hill step back into a major league environment and do what he did. Good for him. He just keeps going and going and going. Rich Hill, dude of the week.
Yeah, I agree with you. I sent him a text. I said, "Welcome back, Dick Mountain." He said, "Alanna, thank you. Great to be back out there." Rich Hill has one of the most sneaky, funny personalities I've ever seen. He seems very stoic and always has very thoughtful answers, very poetic. And then he gets into a charter plane and he gets on the microphone that is used for the flight attendants and has the entire team rolling. Good for him. Good for his wife, Caitlin. It's good to see him still out there. He's like the new Jamie Moyer, right? All right. My dude of the week. I'm going to give it to 3 teams who easily could have thrown in the towel, wave the white flag, if you will: the Rockies, the Marlins, and the White Sox. I don't give the Dude of the Week award to the organizations. I give the Dude of the Week award to the players themselves, because they could easily say, you know what, forget it. We're not going anywhere. I mean, maybe some of them are trying to showcase their talents so other teams can pick them up and get them the hell out of Colorado, Miami, and Chicago. But they are my dudes of the week for not giving up and putting together some decent games and some decent series. Okay, time now for the John Fisher Dork of the week. Okay, who's your dork of the week, Ken?
Alanna, I want to start off by saying I have a ton of respect for Major League umpires, a ton of sympathy for Major League umpires who take grief night after night after night. Some of it deserved, but much of it not. That said, there are times when an umpire snaps, understandably snaps, and crosses a line. Chad Whitson crossed the line the other night when he went to the Giants dugout, and you could see it right there. He yelled, "Worry about getting out of the 3rd inning." Now, we don't know for sure that he was directing that at Justin Verlander, but Justin Verlander the night before had not gotten out of the 3rd inning. So it stands to reason that's who Chad Whitson was yelling at. And there are certain things that go on the field back and forth that you can understand. You can understand managers getting hot. You can understand umpires getting hot. But that, to me, crossed the line with a future Hall of Famer that was just not right. Now, I have no idea what Verlander might have said to prompt it, if indeed that is what happened. But at the same time, that was not a good look. So, Chad Whitson, without knowing more information, you're my dork of the week.
Yeah, that makes sense. My dork of the week is, and it's hard to say this because obviously he's an unbelievable player, an unbelievable person, but Shohei Otani is my dork of the week only because, Ken, and this might lie on the hands of the Dodgers too, I don't know. But I know that there have been a lot of rule changes in terms of the way that the media is allowed to interview some folks after games when Shohei Otani became a Dodger. There's just certain things, parameters that they have to now follow. And Shohei Otani yesterday tied a franchise record with 5 straight home runs. He has 5 straight games with a home run in each game. Obviously, the record is 8, right? 8 straight games with the home run. But it did tie a Dodgers franchise record. He also was intentionally walked, obviously, just, gamesmanship type of situation by the Twins. But he didn't make himself available after the game. And again, could that have been a Dodgers call? Could that have been a Shohei call? That bothers me because as a media member and as a journalist, we have our jobs to do too. And that's a big part of the story, right? It wasn't as if it wasn't a loss. I mean, the Dodgers came back and walked it off by Freddie Freeman. I just feel like Shohei should have made himself available to the media to talk about that milestone, to talk about the game, to talk about, whatever it is, whatever questions they had in terms of being able to get their job done as well. And I know that you've dealt with this too. You are in so many different aspects of journalism, obviously with Fox here on Fair Territory, writing for The Athletic. This is a frustrating thing for a journalist when a big piece of the story is not made available.
It's true. And often when fans say, well, who cares? We don't care if the players speak to you. My response is, hey, when they don't speak, they kind of put it on their teammates to speak. Now, last night was not necessarily that kind of situation, but it's basically just a responsibility players have. So that's how I would view that one.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's the face of the game right now, the sport. I just he would have made that available. Anyway, but for now, we say goodbye to our good friends over at Nesson, Sportsnet Pittsburgh, and Nesson Nation. We say goodbye for now. We will see you next time. All right. For those of you that are still with us, we appreciate it very much. And you are coming to my neck of the woods. I'm insulted, Ken, that you didn't ask if you could stay at Chateau Rizzo here in the Boston area. This is going to be an interesting series. The Dodgers and the Red Sox, both teams kind of limping into it right now with their play over the last, since the All-Star break. What do you hope to see from these two clubs?
From the Red Sox, a continuation of what we saw last night in Philadelphia. That was perhaps their biggest win of the year. They came back. They had late inning drama. They had a lot of things go right. And they just need to kind of stabilize themselves again. They were playing so well before the break. They've been 2-4 since the break. So they just need to kind of build some momentum, and they need reinforcement in the next week from their president of baseball operations, Craig Breslow. No question about that. The Dodgers, I wonder when they're going to kind of snap to it. And it's still only July 24th, and it's not a situation of urgency. They've got the division lead. They're going to make the playoffs. But you wonder, when is this all going to click? When are their players going to get healthy? How are they going to reinforce their bullpen? What is going on with Mookie? All of these different little nagging issues that right now individually are not devastating in any way, but come September, when you want to roll into October, where are they going to be then? And that is the curiosity I've got with the Dodgers. I've had it all season. When will they turn it on? Will they be able to turn it on?
Isn't that funny? They're still leading the division. We're wondering when the Dodgers are going to be able to turn it on. Let me ask you this, though. You mentioned Mookie Betts, and nobody is harder on Mookie than Mookie himself. Dave Roberts essentially benched him the other day, said that he was giving him a mental break. Obviously, you wrote about this in your column specifically about the Yankees on how to handle unproductive players, but it was right after the All-Star break. So I don't think that Mookie needed the rest or the mental break, but he's certainly struggling. How do you think Mookie is best served to get out of this and get back to the player that we know he is and that he certainly knows he is?
Wow, Alanna, that is a great question. And you're right about Mookie. He's extremely hard on himself to a fault sometimes. Maybe not just sometimes, maybe a lot of times. And he does not believe this has anything to do with his play at shortstop, moving to shortstop full time. He just cannot kind of figure out what is going on. Now, you can't bench him for an extended period. That would make no sense. The mental relief, I understand that. That was obviously Dave Roberts saw something in that first game that he said, nope, we got to give him a day. So the obvious thing here is to keep playing and keep going. That's what major league players do. That's what Mookie Betts has done his entire career. But you worry that this has gone on for so long. This is not just now the stomach illness that hurt him early on. This is an extended season-long slump, and he has to play himself out of it, but it's not easy to do.
Yeah, no question about that. It'll be interesting to see the series this weekend. Ken, I hope to see you over the course of the weekend at Fenway. For everybody watching Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal, we appreciate it. Ken has a brand new episode on Monday. Don't forget, Foul Territory is next. Eric Kratz and Todd Frazier join Scott Braun. They have good guests today. Brent Rooker, Jesse Chavez, and Jesse Rogers from ESPN. We'll see you next time.